22:30 hours, 22nd March, 1945, west of Viersen on the Lower Rhine, Lieutenant Colonel Merrick. Truly crouches beside a half-track idling at 800 RPM. The engine vibrates through his boots. 500 pounds of amplification equipment sits in the truck bed like a steel coffin. The speaker cones are black holes in the moonlight. He checks his watch. 30 minutes until showtime. The men of the 3,132nd Signal Service Company. Adjust cables in the dark. No flashlights. No cigarettes. Their wire recorders hold the sounds of real armor. Tank tracks recorded at Fort Knox, bridge building noise from the Corps of Engineers. Tonight those sounds will travel 15 miles across German lines. Truly remembers the briefing at 9th Army headquarters. The intelligence colonel had used air quotes when he said special troops. The infantry brass called them the traveling circus. Artists and ad men, they said. Rubber tank salesmen. A private threads recording wire through the playback heads. The wire is thinner than guitar string. One break kills the illusion. Major Robert Hiller appears at Truly's shoulder. His technical manual is dog-eared from 3 months of night operations. Winds from the southwest at 12 knots, Hiller whispers. Sound'll carry past Kempen, maybe Krefeld. Truly nods. The math is simple. 500 watts through directional speakers equals the acoustic signature of a Sherman company moving at road speed. Play it right, and German listening posts will plot American armor where none exists. 600 yards east, men from the 603rd Engineers pull canvas over inflatable Shermans. The rubber tanks hold their shape in the wind, but barely. One puncture, and the whole battalion disappears. The radio operator in the command half-track keys his transmitter. His Morse code mimics the fist, the unique rhythm, of the real 30th Infantry Division. The 30th is 20 miles south with 16th Corps, preparing for the actual Rhine crossing. Tonight they exist only in radio traffic and rubber. Truly's job is to make 2 Phantom divisions look real, 40,000 men who exist only in German intelligence reports. 2,300 hours. Hiller gives the signal. The wire recorders spin up. Tank track noise pours from the speakers, steel on concrete, the whine of transmissions under load, the diesel rumble of advancing armor. The sound bounces off farmhouse walls and rolls toward enemy lines. A German flare pops 2 miles northeast. White phosphorus light drifts over empty fields. They're listening. The audio track shifts. Bridge building sounds now. Pontoon calls, winch squeals, the slam of decking sections locking together. Truly imagines German forward observers plotting engineer activity on their maps, noting grid coordinates, calling back to division headquarters. The show is working. But 30 seconds into the performance, muzzle. Flashes bloom on the far ridgeline. German artillery has bracketed the sound source. If you want to see how Truly's traveling circus survived German counter-battery fire while tricking an entire enemy army into defending the wrong spot, please hit that like button. It helps us share more forgotten stories like this. And please subscribe if you haven't already. Back to the Rhine, where the circus was about to draw deadly attention. The shells land 400 yards short. Truly counts the seconds between muzzle flash and impact. 18 seconds. The German battery is firing blind from 8 miles out. They have the grid coordinates, but not the exact target. Hiller kills the sound system. The speakers go silent. The half-tracks idle, in neutral, ready to move. Captain George Reb appears from the perimeter with his rifle company. His engineers have been digging fake gun pits since sunset. Counter battery in 30 seconds, Reb whispers. They'll walk it closer. Truly checks his map. The deception zone covers 12 square miles. 9th Army wants the 5th Corps to look like the crossing hammer, while 69th Corps makes the real assault 20 miles south. 2 Phantom divisions against 1 real parachute army. The math only works if General Schlemm takes the bait. The German guns fire again. This time, the shells bracket the speaker position. Shrapnel winds through the trees. 1 fragment punches through the half-track's canvas roof. Displace, Truly orders. The convoy moves south along a farm track. No headlights. The drivers follow the white tape the 603rd Engineers laid during daylight reconnaissance. Every turn is marked, every obstacle cleared. By 0300 hours on the 23rd of March, they reach the alternate firing position, an apple orchard half a mile from the original site. The trees provide natural camouflage for the speakers. Hiller's men reset the equipment in 20 minutes. The wire recorders spin up again. This time, the audio track plays tank maintenance sounds, engine warm-ups, track adjustment, the routine noise of an armored division preparing for combat. Truly knows German intelligence officers maintain detailed files on American unit signatures. They study recorder wire captured from knocked-out reconnaissance vehicles. They know what a Sherman sounds like at idle versus full throttle. The deception has to be perfect. 3 miles northwest, rubber Shermans and dummy anti-aircraft guns dot the landscape in battalion formation. 64 inflatable 40mm pieces. 16 rubber 90mm guns. From 6,000 feet altitude, a Luftwaffe reconnaissance pilot sees corps-level air defense. The spacing matches U.S. Army doctrine for river assault preparation. Major Hiller monitors German radio frequencies on a captured receiver. Their forward observers report heavy vehicle movement in the 13 Corps zone. Artillery requests target lists for American assembly areas. Division headquarters updates enemy situation maps. The enemy is buying the show. But Truly knows the hardest part comes next. Sustaining the illusion for 48 hours while the real divisions move into jump-off positions with 6th and 2nd Corps. Every night the Ghost Army performs, German patrol activity increases. Counter-reconnaissance teams probe the dummy lines. Artillery registration becomes more accurate. The rubber army draws fire meant for the real one. At 05:15, Luftwaffe night fighters strafe the orchard. 20mm cannon shells chop through apple branches. The half-tracks scatter between the trees. One speaker takes a direct hit and explodes in sparks and twisted metal. Hiller's men drag the wreckage into a shell crater and cover it with camouflage netting. Down to 4 systems, Hiller reports. Still enough for a battalion signature. Truly adjusts the plan. 4 speakers instead of 6 means shorter acoustic range. The sound picture shrinks from 15 miles to 12. But 12 miles still covers the key German listening posts around Kempen and Aldekirk. Dawn brings new problems. Luftwaffe reconnaissance flights increase by 50% over the deception zone. Photo interpreters at German Army Group headquarters study every vehicle shadow, every track pattern in the mud. They count tent rows and measure the spacing between dummy guns. The 603rd Engineers work through daylight to maintain the visual story. They add tire tracks between rubber vehicles, string laundry lines near inflatable command posts, light cooking fires that produce mess smoke, the small details that make a camp look lived in from aerial photography. Colonel Reeder arrives by jeep at noon with new intelligence. German radio intercepts show increased chatter about American bridging preparations opposite Krefeld. Enemy artillery is shifting north toward the 3rd Corps zone. Patrol reports describe significant armor concentrations where only rubber tanks exist. Schlemm's moving reserves, Reeder says. 2 battalions from the Krefeld sector to reinforce Wesel approaches. Truly studies the situation map. Every German soldier diverted to defend the wrong crossing point means fewer machine guns on the real assault beaches. The deception is working, but the price keeps rising. Enemy attention brings enemy fire. That afternoon, German patrol boats probe the Rhine opposite the dummy bridging sites. Artillery observers in church towers call coordinates to their batteries. Counter-reconnaissance teams infiltrate the forward edge of the deception zone. Reb's combat engineers take contact first. German scouts probe the perimeter defenses around a cluster of inflatable Shermans. The firefight lasts 30 minutes. 2 Americans wounded, 3 Germans killed. But the enemy patrol reports light resistance around what they believe is a tank park. Light resistance suggests American forces are hiding their strength. Preparing for attack. The radio deception continues around the clock. Signal Company Special maintains traffic nets that mimic two infantry divisions. Call signs, routing instructions, supply requests, all the administrative chatter that reveals unit locations to German direction-finding equipment. The radio operators memorize the Morse code fists of real divisional signalmen. Every transmission must sound authentic. By evening of the 23rd, German artillery has registered on 14 separate target areas within the deception zone. Forward observer teams call fire missions every 4 hours. The enemy believes they are disrupting American assault preparations. They are shooting at shadows. Truly watches the sunset through his field glasses. Tomorrow, 9th Army crosses the Rhine with the 17th Corps 20 miles south. Tonight, the Ghost Army performs its final show. The wire recorders spin up one last time. Tank noise echoes across the river valley. Radio nets crackle with fake traffic. Rubber divisions prepare for a battle that will never come. In German bunkers along the far shore, enemy soldiers clean their weapons and check their ammunition. They believe 40,000 Americans will attack at dawn. They are wrong. Sergeant First Class William Morrison crouches in the mud beside an inflatable Sherman at 0630 on the morning of the 24th. The rubber tank sags slightly on the left side where shrapnel punctured the air bladder during the night barrage. Morrison patches the hole with canvas and bicycle tire glue. His hands shake from the cold and 3 days without sleep. Morrison attended the Cleveland Institute of Art before the war. He painted landscapes and portraits for $20 each. Now he creates armored divisions from thin air. The irony is not lost on him. He steps back and studies the tank from 50 yards. The morning shadows fall wrong. A Luftwaffe pilot flying reconnaissance at 6,000 feet will notice the shadow length doesn't match a real Sherman's profile. Morrison grabs a camouflage net and adjusts the angle until the shadow looks correct. Details matter. German photo interpreters study every frame with magnifying glasses. They measure vehicle spacing to identify unit types. They count tent rows to estimate personnel strength. One mistake ruins the entire deception. 300 yards east, Staff Sergeant Robert Hayes strings telephone wire between dummy command posts. The wire serves no purpose except to look authentic from aerial photography. German intelligence officers know American units communicate by landline whenever possible. Radio silence suggests an attack is imminent. Hayes fought with the 4th Infantry Division in Normandy before transferring to the Ghost Army. He knows what a real command post looks like. The organized chaos, the antenna farms, the steady stream of runners and dispatch riders. Today he recreates that atmosphere with smoke pots and carefully placed tire tracks. A Focke-Wulf 190. Reconnaissance plane appears at 10,000 feet, flying north to south along the Rhine. Morrison freezes beside his rubber Sherman until the aircraft passes. German cameras click from 4 miles up. Tonight those photographs will reach Army Group H headquarters, where analysts will update their enemy situation maps. The plane banks east and disappears beyond the river. Morrison walks his assigned sector like a Luftwaffe pilot in his head. He sees what German eyes will see. 15 rubber Shermans in company formation, dummy half-tracks positioned for river assault, inflatable artillery pieces with their barrels trained toward enemy positions. But something is wrong with the spacing. American armor doctrine calls for 50-yard intervals between vehicles and assembly areas. Morrison's tanks sit 40 yards apart. German intelligence manuals contain precise measurements for every U.S. Army formation. Photo interpreters will notice the discrepancy. Morrison grabs 2 men and repositions 3 tanks. The work takes 40 minutes. They drag the rubber vehicles through ankle-deep mud, careful not to puncture the air bladders on barbed wire or shell fragments. Each tank weighs 120 pounds when fully inflated. By noon, the deception zone stretches across 8 square miles. 96 inflatable vehicles create the signature of 2 reinforced battalions. Dummy anti-aircraft guns provide corps-level air defense. Radio antennas suggest divisional communications networks. The picture looks real from every angle that matters. Technical Sergeant Arthur Shillstone studies a captured German reconnaissance photograph through a field magnifier. The image shows his sector from the previous day. Vehicle shadows point northeast. Tire track patterns suggest recent movement. The spacing between tents matches American field manuals exactly. Shillstone taught commercial art in Chicago before the war. He designed advertisements for Sears Roebuck catalogs. Photography was part of his trade. Now he thinks like a Luftwaffe camera operator at 6,000 feet altitude. The photograph reveals two problems. A rubber half-track sits too close to a genuine supply tent. German analysts will notice the inconsistency. And the shadows from 3 dummy artillery pieces point in slightly different directions. Physics doesn't work that way with a single light source. Shillstone marks the corrections on his map and dispatches teams to fix both issues. The half-track moves 50 yards south. The artillery pieces are repositioned so their shadows align with the sun angle, at typical reconnaissance flight times. Perfect details sell imperfect illusions. At 1400 hours, German artillery opens fire on the dummy positions. 105mm howitzers firing from across the Rhine. The shells land in precise patterns around inflatable vehicle parks. Counter-battery radar has identified every speaker position, every radio antenna, every cluster of rubber armor. The enemy believes they are disrupting American assault preparations. They are destroying canvas and compressed air. Morrison dives for cover as shells bracket his Sherman. Shrapnel tears through the rubber hull and the tank deflates in 30 seconds. He watches 2 days of careful positioning disappear in smoke and twisted metal. But the destruction serves the deception. German forward observers report successful hits on American armor concentrations. Artillery officers update their target lists. Division headquarters logs another disrupted enemy assembly area. Real damage validates fake positions. Corporal James Haley operates a wire recorder from a concealed position near Viersen. His equipment plays the sounds of bridge construction, pontoon boats hitting the water, decking sections being positioned, engineer officers shouting commands across the river. German listening posts plot the audio signatures on their maps. Bridge building sounds suggest imminent river crossings. Artillery calls for fire missions against engineer assembly areas that exist only on recording wire. Haley fought with combat engineers at Anzio before joining the Sonic Deception Unit. He knows exactly how bridge construction sounds at different phases. The sequence of noises, the timing between operations, the audio signature of organized chaos. The wire recorder spins at 15 inches per second. Each reel contains 45 minutes of authentic engineer sounds recorded at training facilities in England. Haley mixes tracks in real time to create the illusion of coordinated construction across multiple sites. By late afternoon, German radio intercepts report increased American bridging activity opposite Krefeld. Enemy artillery concentrates fire on areas where only loudspeakers exist. Patrol reports describe extensive engineer preparations for river assault operations. The deception reaches peak effectiveness, but success brings danger. German counter-reconnaissance teams probe deeper into the dummy positions. Combat patrols test American security around fake assembly areas. Artillery registration becomes more accurate with each fire mission. The Ghost Army has created a target that draws the enemy's full attention. As darkness falls on the 24th of March, Morrison inflates a replacement Sherman in the position where his previous tank was destroyed. The rubber vehicle takes shape slowly, one breath at a time from a hand pump. His fingers are numb from the cold. Tomorrow, the real assault begins 20 miles south with 17th Corps. Tonight, the Phantom divisions maintain their final performance. The show must continue until German reserves commit to defending the wrong river crossing. The traveling circus plays its last engagement. At 0400 hours on March 25th, Lieutenant Colonel Truly receives the intercept that changes everything. A captured German radio transmission reveals 1st Parachute Army Headquarters has moved 2 reserve battalions north from Krefeld to reinforce the Wesel sector. 800 combat troops repositioned to defend against Phantom divisions. The deception is working beyond all expectations. Truly studies the intelligence summary in his command half-track. German situation maps now show the 79th Infantry Division exactly where the Ghost Army placed it. The 30th Infantry Division appears as a question mark on enemy overlays, present somewhere in Thweiss Corps zone but location uncertain. Perfect confusion for an assault that will never come. General Schlemm's staff believes the main Allied effort will strike north of Wesel with only diversionary attacks near Krefeld, the opposite of Ninth Army's actual plan. Two Phantom divisions have convinced an entire enemy army group to defend the wrong 20 miles of river. Radio intercepts confirm the shift. German artillery has moved 6 batteries north to cover the expected crossing sites. Combat engineers position obstacles and mines where American rubber boats will never land. Reserve armor concentrates behind positions the Ghost Army will never attack. Every German soldier facing Phantom threats is one fewer defender at the real crossings. Captain Reb monitors enemy patrol activity from his forward observation post. German reconnaissance teams probe the dummy positions with increasing boldness. They test security around inflatable vehicle parks. They map American positions that exist only in compressed air and canvas. 3 separate combat patrols infiltrate the deception zone during the night. Each encounter follows the same pattern: light contact with Ghost Army security forces. Brief firefights that reveal American defensive positions without exposing the deception. German after-action reports describe determined resistance around tank assembly areas. The enemy interprets defensive fire as confirmation of valuable targets, but the increased attention brings deadly consequences. German artillery registration improves with each mission. Counter-battery radar tracks every radio transmission to its source. Forward observers call precision fires on speaker positions and command posts. The rubber army becomes a magnet for enemy destruction. Sergeant Morrison replaces his 3rd inflatable Sherman in 2 days. The previous tank lasted 6 hours before a direct artillery hit turned it into smoking canvas scraps. German gunners have registered on every vehicle position in his sector. They fire harassment missions every 2 hours. Morrison inflates the replacement tank behind a barn where enemy observers cannot see him working. The process takes 40 minutes with a hand pump. Each breath of air brings the rubber vehicle closer to operational size and closer to enemy attention. He positions the Sherman in a new location 50 yards from the destroyed tank. German photo interpreters study vehicle positions between reconnaissance flights. Moving targets suggest active units preparing for combat operations. The rubber tank draws fire within 3 hours. Staff Sergeant Hayes maintains the illusion of divisional communications from a concealed radio position. His operators transmit in the distinctive Morse code patterns of departed American units. Call signs, message precedents, traffic routing. Every detail matches real divisional procedures. German direction-finding stations plot radio transmissions on their maps. The signal locations correspond exactly with suspected American positions. Communication security protocols suggest units preparing for major operations. But Hayes knows the radio deception carries maximum risk. Direction-finding equipment can locate transmitters within 100 meters. German artillery fires on radio sources with deadly precision. 3 operators have been wounded by counter-battery fire in the past 24 hours. Every transmission could be the last. At noon, Luftwaffe reconnaissance photographs reveal the deception's peak effectiveness. Aerial images show 94 inflatable vehicles arranged in perfect assault formation. Anti-aircraft guns provide corps-level protection. Communications antennas suggest 2 complete divisions. German photo interpreters count tent rows and estimate 42,000 American troops in the Thwaite-Nails Corps zone. Their calculations include the Phantom 79th and 30th Infantry Divisions, plus supporting units that exist only in rubber and radio waves. The enemy sees exactly what the Ghost Army wants them to see. Intelligence summaries flow up the German command chain. Army Group H updates situation maps based on American troop concentrations opposite Krefeld. Reserve battalions receive movement orders to counter the expected assault. Artillery plans target the dummy positions for preemptive bombardment. Every German decision validates the deception. Technical Sergeant Shilstone studies the latest reconnaissance photographs through his field magnifier. The images show his handiwork from 6,000 feet altitude. Vehicle spacing matches American doctrine perfectly. Camouflage patterns suggest recent movement. The entire tableau reads as authentic military preparation. But Shilstone notices troubling details in the photographs. German artillery has created distinctive crater patterns around the dummy positions. Repeated bombardment of the same grid squares suggests enemy gunners have registered on specific targets. The deception zone is becoming a killing field. Major Hiller coordinates the final sonic performance from his mobile command post. Wire recorders play bridge construction sounds across the river valley. Tank maintenance noises suggest armored units preparing for combat. Engineer calls echo from multiple locations along the dummy crossing sites. German listening posts plot the audio signatures with precision. Sound-ranging equipment triangulates speaker positions to within 50 meters. Artillery fire missions target sonic installations with increasing accuracy. Hiller has lost 2 complete speaker systems to counter battery fire. His remaining equipment covers only 8 square miles instead of the original 12, but 8 miles still provides enough acoustic coverage to maintain the illusion. The Phantom divisions prepare for their Phantom assault. By evening of the 25th, German patrol reports confirm intensive American preparation for river crossing operations. Enemy observers describe extensive bridging equipment and armor concentrations. Radio intercepts reveal divisional-level communications traffic consistent with imminent attack. 1st Parachute Army Headquarters issues alert orders to all forward units. Combat troops occupy defensive positions opposite the expected crossing sites. Artillery coordinates fires on American assembly areas. Reserve armor moves to blocking positions behind the Phantom threat. The German army defends against an attack that will never come. Colonel Reeder arrives at Truly's command post with final intelligence updates. German situation maps place both Phantom divisions in the 3-corps zone. Enemy reserve movements confirm Schlemm's staff believes the main effort will strike north of Wesel. They're committed, Reeder says. 2 battalions plus artillery displaced from the real crossing sites. Truly checks his watch. In 6 hours, 16th Sector Corps begins the actual Rhine assault 20 miles south. The Ghost Army has drawn German attention to the wrong sector for exactly the time required. The traveling circus achieves perfect success at the moment of maximum danger. The German assault comes at 0200 hours on the 26th of March. Not artillery this time, infantry. 2 companies of paratroopers moving through the darkness to overrun what they believe are American assembly areas. Truly receives the alert from Captain Reb's forward posts. Enemy soldiers advancing in skirmish lines toward the rubber tank positions. Combat troops with automatic weapons and grenades. The Ghost Army's heaviest weapon is a 50 caliber machine gun mounted on a ring. Contact front, Reb's voice crackles through the radio. Estimate company strength, they're coming for the tank park. The deception has drawn more attention than anyone expected. German commanders decided to disrupt American preparations with direct assault. They are attacking shadows with real bullets. Sergeant Morrison crouches behind his inflatable Sherman as tracer rounds snap overhead. The rubber tank provides no protection from small arms fire. 1 bullet will deflate the entire vehicle in seconds. Morrison clutches his rifle and waits for orders that may never come. 30 yards to his left, muzzle flashes bloom in the darkness. German Schmeisser submachine guns chatter at cyclic rate. The paratroopers advance by fire and movement, 1 squad covering while another bounds forward. Professional soldiers executing textbook tactics against canvas targets. Morrison sees the futility immediately. The Ghost Army cannot fight a sustained engagement. They lack the numbers and firepower for serious combat, but retreating too quickly will expose the deception. German soldiers will discover rubber tanks and wire recorders instead of real armor and artillery. The illusion requires defending positions that have no tactical value. Staff Sergeant Hayes abandons his radio equipment as German soldiers approach his transmission site. The wire recorders contain 48 hours of sonic deception tracks. Captured equipment will reveal American methods to enemy intelligence officers. Hayes pulls the pins from 2 thermite grenades and drops them into the radio compartment. White phosphorus burns through chassis metal and recording wire. Flames consume the evidence of Phantom divisions in 30 seconds. The radio net goes silent. German direction-finding stations lose contact with units that never existed except in Morse code transmissions. But the silence creates its own problems. American forces maintain communications discipline during attack preparations. Radio silence suggests imminent assault operations. German intelligence officers interpret the quiet frequencies as confirmation of approaching combat. The Ghost Army's final transmission becomes the most convincing evidence of its phantom presence. Technical Sergeant Shillstone watches German infantry probe his sector through field glasses. Paratroopers advance methodically between inflatable vehicles, checking each position for American defenders. They expect to find tank crews and artillery observers. They find canvas and compressed air. A German sergeant kicks an inflatable half-track. The vehicle rocks sideways but maintains its shape. He calls 2 soldiers forward to investigate. They circle the dummy vehicle with weapons ready, searching for the crew compartment that does not exist. Shillstone holds his breath. Discovery means the entire deception collapses. German intelligence will recognize the inflatable equipment and trace its origins to the Ghost Army. Future operations become impossible once the enemy understands American deception methods. The paratroopers move past the rubber half-track without recognizing its true nature. Darkness and tactical focus prevent close examination. They assume the vehicle is abandoned or camouflaged beyond immediate detection. The deception survives by milliseconds and poor visibility. Captain Reb coordinates the Ghost Army's withdrawal from defensive positions that never held strategic value. His combat engineers fight delaying actions around rubber equipment they cannot afford to lose. Every inflatable vehicle represents months of development and thousands of dollars in specialized materials. But the hardware matters less than protecting the method. German intelligence cannot learn how American forces create phantom divisions from thin air. The technique must remain secret for future operations. Reb orders controlled demolition of sensitive equipment. Thermite charges destroy radio transmitters and wire recorders. White phosphorus burns through speaker systems and control units. The Ghost Army erases its electronic signature before enemy soldiers can capture working examples. Flames illuminate the night sky as technical equipment burns. German artillery observers mistake the fires for American ammunition explosions. They report successful disruption of enemy supply dumps and communication centers. Destruction validates the deception even as it ends the performance. Major Hiller supervises the evacuation of his remaining sonic equipment. 2 speaker systems survive the German assault. His operators dismantle the units in total darkness, working by feel to disconnect cables and pack amplification components. Each speaker weighs 500 pounds fully assembled. Moving the equipment requires careful coordination between multiple teams, but speed matters more than stealth. German patrols probe deeper into the deception zone with every passing minute. Hiller's teams load the speakers onto half-tracks and disappear into the countryside. The vehicles follow predetermined withdrawal routes marked with white tape during daylight reconnaissance. No headlights, no radio communication, navigation by compass, and dead reckoning through unfamiliar terrain. The sonic deception unit vanishes like the phantom divisions it created. By 0400 hours, German paratroopers control most of the dummy positions. They report minimal resistance and evidence of hasty American withdrawal. Combat engineers examine abandoned equipment and find inflatable vehicles mixed with genuine military hardware. But the rubber tanks appear to be training aids or damaged equipment rather than purposeful deception devices. German intelligence officers lack experience with American camouflage techniques. They misinterpret the inflatable vehicles as authentic materiel rendered inoperative by artillery fire. The Ghost Army's greatest vulnerability becomes its final protection. Enemy unfamiliarity with deception methods prevents recognition of the true operation. Truly monitors German radio traffic from his mobile command post, 5 miles south of the original positions. Enemy transmissions report successful raids on American assembly areas. Paratroop officers describe captured positions containing disabled armor and abandoned communications equipment. No mention of rubber tanks or wire recorders. The deception method remains secret despite tactical exposure. But the cost is measured in American casualties. 3 Ghost Army soldiers killed during the withdrawal. 7 wounded by small arms fire and grenade fragments. Captain Reb takes shrapnel in the left shoulder while covering his engineers' retreat from a dummy gun position. Real blood validates phantom positions. German after-action reports credit paratrooper courage with disrupting American assault preparations. The enemy believes they prevented a KOI, major river crossing through direct action against staging areas. They attacked an illusion and claim victory over shadows. At dawn on the 26th, reconnaissance photographs show the deception zone in ruins. Burned vehicles and abandoned equipment litter the landscape. Crater patterns suggest intensive artillery bombardment followed by infantry assault. German photo interpreters study the images for signs of American strength and capabilities. They count destroyed vehicles and estimate unit losses. The analysis confirms successful disruption of enemy operations, but the photographs also reveal the deception's ultimate success. Real 16 Corps crosses the Rhine 20 miles south, while German attention focuses on the devastated dummy positions. The Phantom divisions accomplish their mission by drawing enemy fire away from actual assault forces. The traveling circus ends its performance in flames and victory. The show is over, but the audience never realized they were watching theater instead of war. At 0600 hours on March 23rd, 20 miles south of the ruined deception zone, Lieutenant General William Simpson's 16th Corps launches Operation Plunder. Real divisions cross the real Rhine while German reserves defend empty positions to the north. Truly monitors the assault reports from his temporary command post in a farmhouse cellar. Radio transmissions crackle with authentic combat traffic. The 79th Infantry Division, the real one, establishes bridgeheads near Rheinberg. The 30th Infantry Division pushes across at Wallach. Actual American soldiers fight for objectives that matter. No rubber tanks, no wire recorders, no phantom radio nets. Just infantry, artillery, and armor executing the river crossing that German intelligence never saw coming. The deception worked perfectly. By noon, 16th Corps controls 4 miles of the eastern riverbank. Combat engineers throw pontoon bridges across assault sites, while German artillery fires at empty grid squares 20 miles north. Reserve battalions rush toward positions the Ghost Army abandoned in flames 6 hours earlier. Truly receives casualty reports every 30 minutes. American losses at the real crossing sites remain surprisingly light. German defenders appear confused and poorly coordinated. Many enemy positions were stripped of personnel to reinforce the phantom threat zones. Every German soldier diverted to fight rubber tanks meant one fewer machine gun nest at the actual bridgeheads. The intelligence summaries arrive throughout the afternoon. German radio intercepts reveal 1st Parachute Army headquarters scrambling to understand American intentions. Enemy situation maps still show major assault preparations north of Wesel. Reserve units continue moving toward positions that no longer threaten anything. General Schlemm's staff remains convinced the main Allied effort will strike their left flank. They redeploy combat forces to counter attacks that exist only in destroyed speaker systems and deflated rubber vehicles. The Phantom divisions continue influencing German decisions even after the Ghost Army withdraws from the battlefield. Perfect deception outlasts the deceivers. Colonel Reeder arrives at Truly's command post with preliminary assessment reports. The 23rd Headquarters Special Troops lost 11 inflatable vehicles, 6 radio sets, and 4 speaker systems during the withdrawal. 3 soldiers killed, 7 wounded. Equipment worth $50,000 destroyed to protect operational security. But the tactical results justify every loss. 17th Corps advances 8 miles inland by evening with minimal resistance. German counterattacks strike positions that American forces evacuated hours earlier. Enemy artillery wastes ammunition on grid squares containing only crater patterns and debris. The traveling circus drew enemy fire away from the real show. Staff Sergeant Hayes reports to the command post with his surviving radio operators. His men carry 3 portable transmitters and enough spare parts to maintain communications for 48 hours. Everything else burned in thermite fires during the German assault. The nets are still running, Hayes says. German direction-finding stations think we're maintaining radio silence for operational security. Truly nods. Radio silence during river crossing operations follows standard American procedure. The enemy interprets missing transmissions as proof of continued threat rather than evidence of withdrawn forces. German intelligence officers assume the Phantom divisions are preparing for their own assault, while 69th Corps establishes bridgeheads to the south. The deception continues working through its own destruction. Technical Sergeant Shillstone arrives with photographic evidence of the operation's success. His cameras captured German paratroopers examining inflatable equipment during the night assault. The enemy soldiers appear confused by the rubber vehicles, but never recognize them as deception devices. They think it's damaged gear, Shillstone reports. Artillery destruction mixed with training aids. The photographs prove the Ghost Army's methods remain secret despite tactical exposure. German intelligence lacks experience with American deception techniques. They misinterpret sophisticated illusion as battlefield debris. Future operations remain possible because the enemy never understood what they discovered. By evening of the 23rd, 9th Army intelligence officers interview German prisoners captured at the 15th Corps bridgeheads. Enemy soldiers describe their units being repositioned northward to counter major American preparations near Krefeld. Entire battalions moved away from the actual crossing sites to defend against phantom divisions. The prisoner interrogations reveal the deception's strategic impact. German reserve deployment followed exactly the pattern 9th Army desired. Combat forces concentrated against threats that did not exist, while real assault divisions achieved tactical surprise at poorly defended river crossings. The Ghost Army accomplished its mission without firing a shot at its primary targets. The enemy defeated themselves through misdirected attention and wasted resources. On March 29th, Lieutenant General Simpson issues formal commendation orders for the 23rd Headquarters Special Troops. The citation reads, "This organization materially assisted in deceiving the enemy as to the dispositions and intentions of the 9th United States Army." Truly reads the commendation aloud to assembled Ghost Army personnel. After 15 months of skepticism and ridicule, official recognition arrives in the form of permanent military records. The traveling circus earns its place in campaign history through documented tactical success. No more jokes about rubber tank salesmen and traveling roadshows. The artists and advertising men prove their methods work against professional military forces under combat conditions. Intelligence summaries from captured German documents provide final confirmation of the operation's effectiveness. Enemy situation maps dated March 22nd show both phantom divisions positioned exactly where the Ghost Army placed them. German artillery target lists include grid coordinates for every dummy vehicle park and radio transmission site. 1st Parachute Army deployed 2 reserve battalions, 16 artillery pieces, and 3 reconnaissance companies to counter threats that existed only in compressed air and radio waves. Over 1,000 German soldiers fought against an enemy that vanished like morning fog when real combat began. The numbers tell the complete story of successful deception. Major Hiller supervises the inventory of surviving sonic equipment. His unit retains enough speaker systems and wire recorders to support future operations. The technical methods remain intact despite equipment losses during the German assault. "We can do this again," Hiller reports. "Different location, same principles." Truly studies the lessons learned summary his staff prepared. Visual deception requires perfect attention to detail and constant maintenance under enemy fire. Sonic illusion depends on authentic sound libraries and precise equipment positioning. Radio deception demands operators who can mimic genuine military communications under pressure. All 3 elements must work together to create believable phantom forces. One missing component breaks the entire illusion. Success requires coordination, discipline, and the courage to defend positions that have no tactical value except as bait for enemy attention. The Ghost Army proved that good ideas, executed with precision and supported by professional soldiers, can redirect an entire enemy army without conventional combat. At Viersen, they moved German reserves to the wrong place at exactly the right time. The traveling circus performed its greatest show, when the stakes were highest and the audience was shooting back. Perfect illusion achieved through imperfect means, defended by real soldiers who understood that sometimes the best way to win a battle is to make the enemy fight where you are not. The rubber army saved lives by drawing death away from living soldiers. Theater of war in its most literal and effective form.